Yeah, I just got back from a 12-day cruise on the Celebrity Eclipse. This is my third cruise on a Solstice-class ship with Celebrity. I thought I would shoot a video, provide some insights from that experience, and also provide some tips that might help you on a future cruise. This channel is brand new. Please feel free to provide some feedback. I'd love to hear from you and let me know how I'm doing. All right, let's get into the Celebrity Eclipse. I was in room 1602. That's on the starboard side, so the right side if you look forward on the 11th floor. And this is an AquaClass room, and I'm gonna dive into AquaClass in just a second because I really think that's key for the way that I've enjoyed Celebrity. Now, we didn't have a choice of what room we got on our last cruise because we literally booked the last room. But normally one thing we really enjoy doing is kind of geeking out over what side of the ship we wanna be on. And we try to mirror the side of the ship with the side that we think it's going to dock on. It's just kind of a fun research topic for us to do. But as you can see, we did not get the best side of this ship, but we were on it and we had a great time. So our room was spacious enough to hold 2 weeks worth of clothes, plenty of closet space. One space that we really filled up a lot was over the bed space, and our luggage just slipped right underneath the beds perfectly. So we were all tucked away, ready for 2-week travel. If you have a lot of electronics, you might want to consider bringing an electrical cord. I was using a power bank the entire time and that just worked fine. But one thing to note is you have very limited electrical output at your desk area. It looks just like this. So due to the weather, our balcony didn't get used a whole lot, but it's pretty spacious. It's got 2 chairs and a table. One thing I would mention in this room, 1602, and the ones probably adjoining it are, you're kind of close to the bump out where the larger suite rooms take up a little more space. And so if you're a little concerned about people looking in or encroaching on your privacy, that might be something to consider. We had a standard safe and mini fridge in our room. And one tip I would throw out there is when you meet your steward for the first time, think about what you want in your mini fridge. Maybe you don't want a bunch of stuff in there. You want more room for that late night cake that you promised yourself you weren't going to eat. Overall, I absolutely love the layout and the location of room 1602. We did have one night a little bit of noise from a party going on in the Grand Foyer. I also had a little bit of FOMO that night. I probably should have been there instead of in bed. I think we just had an early night. But it wasn't too bad, and I think it was probably throughout the ship. They were just extremely loud that night. But that's the only night that we had on this cruise where I heard any exterior noise. All right, I mentioned this was an AquaClass room, and let me explain that because I really think AquaClass is perfect for the way my wife and I like to travel. So AquaClass gives you access to a restaurant called Blu, and Blu is a much smaller dining room than the main dining room. It's much more intimate. It's got a nice window. The basic premise to Blu is that it's healthier dining options. It's just cleaner cooking. It's maybe smaller portions. The food was spectacular. And along with access to this great dining room, you also get yoga mats, access to yoga classes, access to Pilates classes for free, daily bottled water. We also got upgraded bed sheets, upgraded soaps, things like that. So think of it, AquaClass is kind of just an enhanced wellness experience on the boat. All right, let's talk about food and wine. First, wine. So in my opinion, Celebrity has the best wine program of any of the major cruise lines. The prices are maybe steep, not outrageous. It is a cruise line after all. There's plenty to offer there from all around the world. Celebrity allows you to bring on 2 bottles of wine. Now, is it 2 bottles of wine per person, 2 bottles of wine per stateroom? I didn't look real close. Let's just say I got in one line, she got in another, and they don't do a real close inventory tracking as you'd imagine when you're embarking. But anyway, we were able to bring some wine on board, and that was a real nice treat on a couple of the nights. As I mentioned, this is my 3rd cruise on a Solstice-class ship. The prior 2, we always had canopies. And when I talked to the steward when we were first checking in about that, he said they discontinued that service. He saw the obvious look of despair on my face because I just happen to love canopies. I can't spell it, but I absolutely love it. And he ended up bringing me canopies every day. And I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is when you meet with your steward, make sure you ask all the questions and don't be afraid to ask for some things to really get yourself set up. I think it's a real bummer when you think of something later on, you mention it, and that's past. All right, so the Blu dining room. So I mentioned it's clean cooking. It's also just a little bit more of an intimate setting. It's just not as big as the main dining room. In fact, on this cruise, we never once even walked into the main dining room. We had such exceptional service at Blu. Now, you can ask for the main dining room menu. And so if you've got a picky eater, it's kind of a good idea to just go check that out before you sit down. I found the menu items to be very diverse at Blu, but my wife didn't. And so there was a few times where she picked off the main menu. One other tip I want to give about Blu dining room is on that very first night, they get absolutely slammed. Everybody gets on the boat in the afternoon. Everybody is hungry. The buffet is crazy busy. And so when you're at Blue on that first night, expect the service to maybe be off a little bit. What I would suggest you do is book a table at the Tuscan Grill, sit in the back, ask for a window seat, and book it for around the time when you're sailing away, and just watch your embarkation port drift off into the sunset and start your vacation that way. Enjoy a really nice Italian steak dinner at Tuscan Grill, enjoy a great view, and just stay away from the madness that is day one. All right, let me talk a little bit about the buffet, and I'm no buffet expert. We met some people that only ate at the buffet on this 12-day trip. I wouldn't travel that way, but each to their own. And I would say the buffet to me is very good. On some days, it's probably great. We had a couple breakfasts in there. We did have a few lunches at Sea Day. And my wife also enjoyed some late night desserts up in the buffet. But let me give you a couple of buffet tips. And the first one is for breakfast. Sit away from the omelet station. The beeping alarms just drove me crazy from the pagers that they give people that have ordered. Stay away from that. I don't want to eat breakfast with hearing beeps constantly. A second tip is, no matter who you're traveling with, one of you is going to collect food before the other one. So we just kind of established a priority. Maybe it was rear port, and then go around the buffet. So that just look for me there. If you don't find me, keep searching. But nothing will ruin a buffet meal than looking for your company. Now, if you're in a bigger family, obviously someone's got to find a bigger table and guard it. All right, my third buffet tip is don't rush it. It's a huge buffet, and there was many times where I had a plate full, I was done eating my lunch, I got up and saw some other food that I wanted, and you're on a cruise, so you're just going to stack it up and bring it down to your room. But prevent that. Go ahead, get your bearings. It's a really awesome buffet, and I really like that there was variety every day. Don't get me started on the cake day. That was just freaking spectacular. Definitely save some room for desserts on cake day. But they also had like a shrimp day, a charcuterie day. It seemed like every day there was something really unique that was really interesting. A chocolate fountain day, for instance. Again, I didn't eat in the buffet that often, but we did walk through there pretty frequently and just grabbed a couple snacks. All right, my last buffet trip, and it's kind of a pro tip, is if you have the room for it, pack a tray. Pack like a tray that you can put a couple plates on. Load those babies up and bring them down to your balcony if you have one and the weather permits. Enjoy, get away from the hustle and bustle of the buffet and just enjoy that beautiful space that you have in the world rented out. There are some specialty restaurants on the ship, and I've eaten at all of them on previous trips. Murano is a fine dining experience, French cuisine. They have a great tasting menu. The Tuscan Grill, as I mentioned earlier, is an Italian steakhouse. Really good. One thing I remember there specifically is the calamari that I loved. Tuscan has the best view of all restaurants, in my opinion, and they're all well worth it if you want a little bit more variety or if you're not in an AquaClass room. I would definitely book a sea day. I did eat at the sushi restaurant for lunch on a sea day just because I wanted to mix it up a little bit. I would have liked bigger portions, but sushi, it was really good. So I'm not complaining about that. The one complaint I will make is with the mast grill, and there are times where that's the only food available. Not only is it super windy up there, really the burgers just weren't good. I mean, they were steamed burgers, just not appetizing. And there were times where that was the only option available. We either had to make the choice to go hangry or to eat that, and we chose the mast burger, and I wish I didn't. All right, let's talk about an adjacent topic here, and that is gratuities. One of the things the cruise ship's been doing now for a long time is adding automatic gratuity. As of today, it's 20% added onto every single bill. That doesn't matter if you got served in the blue dining room, a sommelier gave you a bottle of wine, or you picked something out of your mini fridge and opened it up in the middle of the night. You're going to pay 20% on top of the price. So that's well understood, and all that gratuity money ends up going into a big pool, and it gets spread out through all the servers. And I know there's some things that they do with surveys and stuff like that to give bonuses to different servers. But if you really want to give somebody a bonus, a special thank you, there is a tip line on every single bill you get. You can do it there, or I often saw a lot of people hand out cash. All right, let's move on to entertainment. I didn't make it to all the shows on this particular cruise. Some of them I thought were really good. I really liked the rock show. The violinist was great. But the theater itself is really a beautiful space. There's definitely not a bad seat in this theater. Another thing that was a surprise, at least to me, was all the entertainment in the Grand Foyer. There was some rockin' shows out there that were just absolutely immersive. Like you're kind of on top of each other as it goes up a couple of floors, and it really makes for a really fun environment. The ABBA show in particular, people were talking about days after. That is not to be missed, the ABBA sing-along. And I don't even know ABBA, but I know that we were jumping around like crazy and singing with people and making friends and just having a great time. So some other things that we really enjoyed on this last trip was the observation lounge. At night, there was trivia up there. We started to get to know some people really well and started to kind of form a team and really enjoyed trivia night. And then after that, there was some late night 18 plus comedy. This was totally new to me. It was actually in a room that I don't think was on the ship when I was on it last. At least I never saw this room. It's an 18 plus event. They tell you up front that this is going to be racy. It's going to be raunchy and raucous. And I got to say, about a quarter of the people walked out almost every night because it was just as advertised. We absolutely loved it. We knew what we were getting ourselves into. But it was really, really a lot of fun if you're in the mood for that kind of comedy. It's definitely an 18 plus show, but there was some crazy hijinks and just really some crazy fun. And then of course you've got, the pools, the spa, you've got the hot tubs. And one thing this ship has that I think is just gorgeous is the solarium. The solarium is just a beautiful, peaceful place to hang out and read a book. Really a great space on the ship. There was also a huge art auction going on. I've enjoyed that on previous ships. On this one I didn't, but it did get me looking at all the art. It was really fun to walk through as we were getting ready to go to dinner. And then it got me looking at some of the art on the walls as I was going back to my cabin. And if somebody could please try to explain what this art means to you, I'd love to hear that in the comments. I looked at this every day as I got off the elevator, and it's still puzzling to me. But I guess that's the beauty of art. All right, let me talk a little bit about the bars, but before I do, the drink package. This is something, in the 20 plus cruises we've taken, my wife and I have never once ordered a drink package, and let me explain why. First of all, let's break down the cost. As I mentioned, there's a 20% gratuity on everything, and that includes the drink package. So if you break it down, the classic package is $107 a day with gratuity. The premium is $126 a day, and that's every day, and it can't be shared. So 2 people like us traveling, you got to double that. So the number one reason we don't get the drink package is because my wife only drinks wine. And the only wines you can get on the drink package are wines by the glass. So that really eliminates the beauty of the Celebrity wine program, in my opinion. The second reason, and I enjoy a cocktail, but it just doesn't make sense from a math perspective. If I'm on the premium package, I've got to drink 6 cocktails a day just to break even, and that's every single day. So for a day where you're at port for 12 hours and you're having a few fine Guinnesses because you're in Ireland, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, my friends in Wisconsin would probably say, hey, Dave, that's a low bar. but trust me, I don't want to feel pressure to jump back on the boat so I can get my 6 drinks in, so I feel like I made a good financial decision with the drink package. Why hold yourself to that? Just pay for it. I had a cocktail a day, big deal. Sure, it was expensive, but it's ended up saving us about half of what we would have had if we had the drink package. And I'm spending time on this because I honestly think it's a bit of a sore subject for people who are drink package lovers, but just do the math and ask yourself, can you do that every single day? And do you want to? I don't know. Again, sorry. Shout out to my friends in Wisconsin, setting the bar. All right, so back to the bars. So I had a couple favorite bars on this cruise ship. The first one is the Martini Bar. At 8 o'clock, there is a fabulous show, and it's every day, 8 o'clock. It's a great place to gather and meet people. You can hear music from the Grand Foyer going on, and the guys are just doing this really fun cocktail show. In the end, they pass out some free martinis if you're lucky enough to be sitting close. You can get one of those. But the show is really, really fun, and every day there was just some hijinks and laughter, and those guys just seemed to really get along well. So it was a lot of fun to watch that. But my favorite bar was actually the Ensemble Bar, and that's because it's on the way to the Blu Restaurant. It's just a great place to have an old-fashioned while you're waiting for your date to get ready and meet you there at the Ensemble Bar before you go off to your dining room. Beautiful, classy, beautiful music playing in that lounge. That was my favorite bar. The Passport Bar had a really cool beer fridge, if you're into that. A wide variety of different beers I've never seen before. One disappointment for me on this ship is how they changed the Cellar Master. In 2017, the last time I was on the Celebrity Solstice, the Cellar Master Bar was our meetup spot. It was a killer wine bar. Gorgeous furniture in there. They had wines and kiosks that you could sample from all around the world. They had a sommelier in there who was just exceptional. And they had some wine tasting events in there that we participated in. And now they've changed it more to kind of a wine and spirits gastropub where you can buy food. It looked really interesting, but it just didn't have the feel of what I was looking for. Now, if you're looking for a meetup spot that's relatively quiet, I never once saw it crowded in there, that might be your spot. And they do have television, so if there's some live sports on, that might be your jam. But for me, I really missed the 2017 version of the Cellar Master. All right, let me just throw out one miscellaneous topic that I didn't really have a place to put. And I just thought people might want to know, and that is that there's 2 ATMs on board. One dispenses euros, one dispenses US dollars. We use the US, and we got charged a $6 fee, which I thought was pretty reasonable considering that we were in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship. All right, and let me wrap up this video talking about the two worst days of any cruise, and that's embarkation and debarkation. In this case, embarkation could not have gone better. It was unbelievable. Now, they do give you a window of when you should be checking in. I don't really think there's a penalty for checking in late, and that's something you want to consider is if you check in early, you need to have a plan. One time we had a plan where we just checked in literally in our swimsuit and went right into the pool, and that was an amazing day because nobody's in there. But if you check in early, make sure you have a plan because the buffet is going to frustrate you. Your cabin's not going to be available. Your luggage won't be available. All that stuff's going to frustrate you. One way to avoid that is don't check in early. Wait a little bit. We checked in at 2 p.m. Sure, the buffet was way too busy, but we were able to grab a couple of bites. We went to a lounge and ate it there away from the madness, and then went to our room at about 4 o'clock, and everything was there. Our luggage was there and everything. I couldn't believe it. It was the smoothest embarkation I've ever had. All right. Let's talk about debarkation. So no matter how you do debarkation, your luggage needs to be outside by 10 o'clock to be gathered. Make sure you save your carry-on luggage, your medicine, your passports, and all the essentials, but luggage outside in the hallway at 10 o'clock. Now, the ship did offer transfers at $30 a person, and we did it independently. I typically never book anything through the cruise ship if I can help it. And in this case, when we got off the ship, I went to a taxi. It was 80 euros to go to the airport. I then called an Uber. And an Uber, a regular Uber would have been $30 total for the two of us, but because we had some extra luggage, I didn't want to hassle with that. I went XL, and that was a 60 euro Uber ride. So almost the same as what the ship would have cost us, but I got to do it on my own. I didn't have to go with a horde of people. And honestly, I could have grabbed some people and shared that ride with them. I didn't think about that until we were in the van. We had plenty of room. It was a 7-person passenger van, but we had a nice, comfortable ride to the airport. Debarkation could not have gone smoother. It was easy to find our luggage. Everything was easy. Another tip I'll throw out on debarkation is everybody gets assigned a number. We were 20. We didn't even get out of our room until 24 was called. There's no reason to rush off, in my opinion, obviously, unless you have a flight. We always try to get off the ship a little bit later than how we're supposed to, within limits. I just don't feel like I don't want to rush out there and go through everybody's luggage to try to find mine. I'm not overly worried about that mix-up happening. So we tried to get off a little bit later. In this case, I think about 24 was called, and we got off. And we had absolutely no problems. The taxis were lined up. The Ubers were lined up right behind them. Every port's totally different. So that's definitely something you're going to want to research. In my case, I really love Uber. I've just had great experiences with it. And so I always just try to make sure if a city has Uber, that's what I'm going with. All right, so in conclusion, I absolutely love Celebrity Cruise Line, and mainly because of the AquaClass room. It just fits the way we want to travel perfectly. We love going to the gym. We love all the wellness perks of the AquaClass. And I also think the Solstice-class ship is just perfect for me. There's not too many tenders. There are not too many bad ports. I think it's the right size of variety for entertainment and ability to get into a port. And there's 2,800 people on the ship. I think there's 1,200 crew members on this ship. It never really felt crowded with the exception of day one in the buffet. You know, you kind of find your places that work for you. I didn't mention it, but I mean, there's a beautiful library on board. There's an earth room. There's all this kind of little spaces. You can really find what works best for you. So as far as Celebrity is concerned, I'm definitely going to go back. I've got my eyes on Australia, New Zealand trip. We actually did it in 2015 and again in 2017. We loved it so much. And we've been talking about it ever since. I want to go back. I want to do it on Celebrity. In that case, it was on the Solstice, and that ship was just perfect for what we wanted to do. It was an amazing trip. I'm going to put a link of that vacation at the end of this video here. It's shot more home video style, but you'll get the idea of what that trip entailed for us. Just a magical place, very romantic. Great food, great people. Everything was absolutely spot on that trip, and I can't wait to repeat it. All right, so that's my view on the Celebrity Solstice-class ship, particularly the Eclipse. If you have any comments, questions about this particular ship, please drop them down below. Again, it's a new channel. I'm looking for feedback. Let me know how I did. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you.